you probably have the most high energy, frontman act, I think, of anybody that's out there. And I can't even understand half the lyrics of your fucking songs, but I'm still...
Half, I would say majority.
Half is very
You gave it pretty good credit to know Russian language.
Look, I pick up like half of it.
I read 40 pages of Dostoevsky. All right, I fucking understand what we're talking about.
Cool.
I found it to be a
Half
little
it
dense.
is.
Welcome back to Show Yours Podcast. I'm Jackie Egg.
I'm Jonny DeVito.
That time wasn't Johnny. You got a sip of something spicy there?
I got to sip with something spicy, but we'll get into that in a minute because we have something more important to talk about right now.
Who's in studio today?
That's a great question, Ty. I'm glad you asked. What we have for you today, the listeners are going to be just, oh my God, overwhelmed with passion, with talent. We have radio personality, show promoter, most importantly, frontman of Russian Tim and the Pavel Bures. Please give it up for Russian Tim.
Yeah!
In the house.
Let's go.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hell yeah.
Dude, thank you for
Thanks
being
so
on.
much for coming over, man. We have a lot to discuss. I think right off the top, listeners from the show will remember Matt Earl from last week's episode and his staunch opinions on a band that is beloved in our scene. And we are here to talk NOFX. We are here to talk Russia. We are here to talk all things Tim, man. Break it down for us, buddy.
Yeah, can I ask you to give me like tough questions?
Okay, well,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, like if you have hesitations, should I ask? Should I not ask?
Are you a KGB operative?
Yeah, because I've done this a couple times before, and it's usually, how did you move to Canada? How's Russia? How it's growing up? How's Russian punk scene? I've said this 20 million times.
Sure.
Okay.
So if you have a question, you're like, fuck, I shouldn't ask.
Okay.
If you feel it could be inappropriate, let's do it like that.
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, let's get into
You,
it.
sir, are the right place.
Yeah. We've got a lot of inappropriate questions. loaded up.
Absolutely. Tim, how's your butthole health lately?
It's actually interesting because I have been doing the colonoscopy,
Oh.
so it's really improved.
Fantastic.
Oh, you should look into that.
I'm looking into it.
We got a good start to the show.
My best
You
butthole
should
days.
literally look into that.
Yeah.
My best
I'll
butthole
have
days
someone
are
else
fine
look
with Tim.
deeply into it.
But
into the
it's
void.
recommended as you age.
Yeah.
Check to make sure that you're
What's the age? What's like? Is it 30 or is it 40 now? When they're
35
like
plus.
35. Oh
35
boy.
plus.
Oh,
30
Okay.
plus too.
someone's overdue. Hey.
Like
looking
I
at
don't like
your
that look I
butthole.
just got. You hear that, Ty? Go get your ass checked. I'm like,
Get your
all right.
butthole checked.
Ty, we could hook up a garden hose and handle this like right now. I'm a professional. I swear to God. I don't understand. Okay, so there's a lot of there's a lot of health issues that I'm kind of coming into a little bit later in my life. I have zero healthy habits, and I thought that I was just going to live forever. And now things are just starting, like the dominoes starting to fall, and gout is happening. I'm limping a little bit around. You know what I mean? I'm getting hemorrhoids that I've never had before. You know, it's heartburn has been plaguing me for a long time. I have the diseases of a much older, fatter man, and but now basically I'm trying to turn the corner in a way that isn't going to. I don't want to go all the way from like party to like full health because my heart will probably stop. So I need to.
You also need to have fun.
Exactly, right? So I'm trying to ease in to a life. I'm not at all yet, but I'm like thinking about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
the
that's
ideas are percolating.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I had the same thoughts about a few years ago. So
So were you like, because you were going like hard into it. Listeners, I'll give a little bit of background that I know about you, Tim. When I moved to the city, always loved being here. My dad always took me to punk shows when I was a kid. Always a huge fan of punk rock, but living in smaller towns and not really having like access to a scene or anything like that. When I came to the city, the punk scene in Vancouver is absolutely fantastic. But in around like 2015, you were a huge part of it, kind of running shows and you know what I mean, kind of being like a face for the scene and a voice too with the radio and all of that stuff too. So you're like a constant kind of like a piece of inspiration for me. Like if you want to do something, you don't really have to ask permission.
Yeah.
It seems like, you just fucking go and get rad.
Exactly.
So where like when you moved to the city, did you have this kind of I want to be a part of this scene, or how can I help improve it? Like where
it's something I wanted to be a part of the scene. No, I don't think it was like that. I was just interested. Like in general, I do in my spare time shit I'm interested in.
Yeah.
So I've done a few things which I did before, and as soon as I lose interest, I just stopped doing it. So it's my time. I can sit at home and watch soccer,
Totally.
which I absolutely love doing it. Or I can do some stuff like doing a show or rehearsing with the band, and that's kind of like whatever interests me. I try to do it. Because I'm fairly organized and passionate person, that usually I do research and I kind of plan everything before doing it, and usually it works out fine for me. But it wasn't I want to be a part of the scene. I just like, I have this cool idea, let's try implement it. That's how I started doing the shows. That's how I started doing the radio show, because first I was invited as a guest. And then I joined as a co-host because my friend Marielle, who hosted the show, said I did really well. And I said, that's cool. So like, it's not like it never is a plan to, I want like something like bigger than it actually is.
Yeah.
Part of the scene.
Totally.
I want to be a face. I want to be lungs or whatever. No, it's more it's more like, I think that's a cool idea. Let's fucking do it.
Yeah,
That's
fuck
the-
yeah.
It's very organic.
Exactly. It's the perfect way to say it. And like the scene around you, the thing that you've kind of like built for yourself, there's no better vibe than, you know what I mean, like a Russian Tim show.
Yes, and that kind of have to give that back to my best friends from growing up from Novosibirsk, from Russia, where I live. In 2012, my best friend, who we've been friends since, I don't know, he's age 7 or 8, he worked in an accounting firm in top 5 firm. I think it was Ernst & Young. And he's total party animal. He's like me, is super fun, and he's like, fucking hell, this job sucks. It's like boring auditing, it's like accounting, and he's like, no, that's not. And he got like a good career out of it.
Yeah.
But then he said, fuck it, and he decided to open a bar. And he called this bar Friends. And the whole idea, he says, I wanted my friends to come into the bar and feel that atmosphere. I want to greet everyone when they come in. I want them to feel welcome. I want to
That's
have a good
awesome.
time.
Hell yeah.
And totally, I've been to this bar, and they totally, like, the name of the bar is Friends, and they have this atmosphere. 15 years later, he has now 15 bars.
Wow.
But that was for me the atmosphere when I started putting on the show. I had the same, like, I'm overall an outgoing and nice guy, but that mentality was like, if I'm putting on the show, in this city, people have, 15 options what to do on a Saturday night. They can go to restaurant, they can go dancing, whatever. They chose the time to spend at this event with watching local bands. I want to at least, welcome them and express my gratitude that, they hanging out with us. They supporting the local music. They hanging out, like they paid the money and choose their time to spend it with us. So that's why I want to be, everyone feel welcome and everyone be, having a good time.
Hell yeah.
So it's and I remember putting on my first show at the Biltmore in 2014. It was Contra Code, Jesse Liborda, and Cores, and somebody else. And I remember came to every single person, said thank you so much, introduced myself who I didn't know, people who I knew. I hugged them, thanked them for being here. And it happens to today. Sometimes I come to our show, I see there's somebody new and they feel awkward because they don't know anyone. I say, hi, how are you? What's your name? Thanks for being here. My name is Tim, da-da-da-da. And usually we become acquaintances.
That's exactly how it happened. I mean, I was kind of sitting in the back, and then a friend of mine that I'd worked with, a guy named Dan Kushner, shout out to Daddy. Yeah, man, Dan is just a fucking beauty. And, he kind of saw that or whatever. And then, fast forward, a few years, I opened for the fucking Core last night. Wrong, you know what I mean? All that stuff. You were there when I fucking just bombed a joke right after Wrong. And it's still just eating away inside of me. But maybe because nobody remembers.
See?
Nobody remembers.
Exactly.
Tim,
It doesn't matter to anyone.
I went up
else.
first and I did 10, 12 minutes or whatever. And it's the beginning of the show and people are, just trickling in. There's just a few bodies in the room, but I'm doing well enough that, okay, they're coming from the bar now and starting to come closer to the stage or whatever. This is the greatest thing that I could ask for, right? At about minute 10 or 11, I'd been talking to Wrong, and I was like, the best way to kind of start the show is while I'm doing my thing, you guys kind of come out. So at one point in my peripheral vision, you know what I mean? I got guitar and bass over here. And they're laughing at the shit. Everybody's kind of laughing. And I'm just like, and I introduce Wrong, drums start. I'm like, this is the greatest fucking moment of my life in comedy or whatever, right? Just especially being like a punk kid and not pursuing music, pursuing comedy. Like this was like my moment or whatever. Nobody gives a shit. You know what I mean, right? Like this is a for me moment. So when I walked off stage, I had this feeling like I could say anything up there. They fucking love me. And then I walked back up and I tried it, and it was just like it didn't bomb horribly, but it was kind of like, hey, we're blacked out. Like let's go. We're here to see the next band, kind of thing. And I
standing behind you while you're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
spitballing.
oh yeah.
Crazy
And
conspiracy
I tried to
theory.
do exactly. And I tried to do some kind of conspiracy. Like I had this idea where because Christy has to leave, so I'm directing everybody to Wrong's merch booth, and I'm saying like Christy also plays in Russian Tim and the Pavel Bures, possibly a KGB connection there, and I just like to make up my own conspiracy theories. And as that went, I hadn't told because I was just all to set up a joke that I've already had.
Yeah.
And Tim, I haven't told that joke in like a year, so I barely even fucking remembered it. It was just in the back. I'm having a couple drinks with Ronnie and shit. I pitched the idea, and he's like, "Fuck yeah, man, go and do it." And I walked off stage being like, "I'm a fucking piece of shit. I should never do it." So when I'm talking to the core, like I was like, "I'm not really going to do anything. You guys light up your rings, and I'll introduce you, and then it's all good." So everything kind of happened after that, but it's that weird. Like learning, moment for like live performances that just because like I want to be here, it's a different environment from like a regular, stand-up audience. People are seated, kind of directed at you. And when you're coming up and you're kind of trying to take attention away from that beautiful moment at a show in between bands where you actually get to talk to people you haven't seen in a minute. You know what I mean? You worked hard all week. That moment is like kind of smoke, have a beer, blah, blah, blah. So
which is usually Johnny DeVito's time to shine
my thing.
at a punk show.
Yeah,
He's like
when I make all my friends,
Dude, Mr. FF comes out.
Dude,
It's like, let's go.
yeah, to the point where I kind of had this like realization moment where I'm like, oh, dude, like pat yourself on the back. This is cool that they let you do this, but at the end, like, this is not about you, man. Which was like, something great. But like, I can learn a lot from like any performer, that I respect. There's always something you can take away. But doing what you do on stage, you probably have the most high energy, frontman act, I think, of anybody that's out there. And I can't even understand half the lyrics of your fucking songs, but I'm still...
Half, I would say majority.
Half is very
You
generous.
gave us pretty
Yeah.
good credit to known Russian
Yeah.
language.
Hey,
Look, I pick up like half of it.
I read 40 pages of Dostoevsky. All right, I fucking understand what we're talking about.
Cool.
I found it to be a
Half
little
it
dense.
is.
But you had this like this this like on stage persona, this that's just like that's high energy and so much goddamn fun, because Russian Tim and the Pavel Bures weren't a thing when I came into town or whatever. So like at what point do you go from show promoting, having a good time interviewing bands and stuff like that, and you're like, oh no, wait a minute, I'm going to take the step and I'm going to do this myself?
Yeah, that wasn't my decision, to be honest. I did a show at the Media Club. I think it was...
Shout out to the old media club.
Yeah.
That's what I bet you.
So that was the one of the Christmas shows, I believe. I think. So I did a song. Yeah. I did a song with Good Riddance song with the Contra Code.
Hell yeah.
One of the songs, and then we practiced it a couple times, and then we did a song together, usual thing. And it went good. And then after I stepped off the stage, Sergey, who is the drummer now in the band, and his wife Julia, they were at the show. They said, "Dude, we have to start a band." And I was like, like I'm busy, I'm not sure. It's like, hey, let's try this, and they convinced me, and I was just like, cool, yeah, let's try this. And then we found Christy, then we found Ilya, and that's how the band started. But again, it was their kind of idea. Like he said, Sergey said, like, you have a great energy on stage. How about we just do something together? And I thought about it. It's like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's do it, man.
That's
awesome.
Unreal. God, this fucking guy's cool.
I know.
Like at the end of the day, like being like a frontman in a band or something is something that you always dream of doing, but like in my head to pursue it not as a musician feels weird to me. You know what I mean? So then it becomes like a singular.
Still
vision,
feels weird
I
to me
don't-
because I'm not a musician too, so it still feels weird. So I have the same feeling.
So when it comes to like songwriting, like what do you guys like? How does that kind of like how do you approach that? With like, do I have an idea and the band can kind of put it together? Or
Yeah, and exactly. Like, see, me having no talent and no musical education is tough, because like I just have like some melody ideas, and I'm so thankful and lucky that we have Christy in the band.
Oh my God,
who is
yes.
professional genius musician.
Yes.
The rest of the band are also professional musicians.
oh, there's
They
no
all-
slouches on the
they
stage
all
there.
have-
Yeah, you guys, yeah.
So it really helps for me to have a melody idea and some lyrics, and just give them some sort of like melody, and they help translate it to the chords, and then we do arrangement together. But it's really, it's a big part of the band, because like, you know, I have ideas, but it's really them who put this all together and put that music together. So
Yeah, like the idea that you can come in with you know, like a few ideas and kind of throw them at the wall, but to have people with the know-how to be like, okay, this is how we make it a song.
exactly,
know.
and their role is so important into those songs, and really, I'm so thankful and so happy that and so lucky that I have 4 of those amazing people who, you know, kind enough to listen to sometimes my dumb ideas or to ideas which I cannot express in terms of like notes, melodies, or whatever I don't know what it is. But they're so, you know, understanding and helpful and so genius that it's great. 20 minutes later, we have some sort of structure of the song.
That's
you know.
insane.
Yeah,
That's so
crazy.
cool to watch happen too in in real time. When you just get people together that are like, because you're adding a ton too, don't I think you're downplaying it a little bit.
You're
You're downplaying your talent here.
There's
but
no
my guy-
Russian Tim in the Pavel
Yeah.
Bures without Russian Tim.
So yeah, I mean, being a part of something like that must be like, I mean, if you go from promoting shows to being like, maybe I'll try this band thing out, just seeing that happen. Do you remember like the first time that really like a song really coming together for the band and just being like, God damn, this is what we need to do?
That was the first show because when we were getting ready, the first show was the first Rocket from Russia Fest in 2017, and that's what we decided to do. And we started practicing in April, and we had 3 months, and we had a 5-song set, very short, 20 minutes, and when we were getting ready, kind of a month out, we sounded good, we sounded tight, and I was like, oh, that's going good. So kind of it was hard to predict, but I was going into those shows with a good feeling. And then when we played, it was fantastic. We played well. We did not make any mistakes, I believe. And and the crowd was, you know, they liked it. They were like, "What the fuck is going on?"
I remember being like, is this a joke or is this like we didn't really know how to, you know, like how to handle it, but it was so very clear right from like the jump that no, like this isn't this isn't a fucking joke. Like you guys are real good.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. Thank you for saying that. But exactly, I'm saying in a sense that we also felt that it went well. And then I asked him, "Hey, should we continue?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah, let's do it. Let's keep doing it." And we started. So
Hell yeah.
so that was the moment when we kind of from a one-off show we decided that we're gonna do this thing as a band.
And now like taking it seriously too. Like you guys have like played with some notable acts. Like, you know what I mean? Like I've seen you guys like, you know, hitting the road and, you know, and doing all that stuff. Like that has got to be, you know what I mean, the coolest accident or, you know what I mean, just fucking whatever, you know, the thing that's actually turning into something that, you know what I mean? You're a notable band in a scene with a lot of really good bands. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I don't know what to say, but you know, if I have some musical talent less, I compensate it with hard work, preparation, and I think my band probably hates me, but we practice regularly. We when we don't have shows, so sometimes we have to play the set a few times before, like quite a lot, and like playing the same songs that may be not exciting and boring for the band, but I want to make sure we sound tight, and when we go on stage that we are ready. And in that sense, I really push all of us to make sure that when we play in front of people who spend their money, spend their time to watch this for 30 minutes, that, you know, that they walk away with some sort of, maybe not absolutely loving us, but some sort of satisfaction that, okay, at least it was fun and they know what they're doing. And ideally, of course, they like it. But when we, like I said, I really do, like all the time, I appreciate when people spend their time and money, when they have million opportunities in the city how to spend, that they spend it to us. For example, we're opening band with, like I said, big shows. We played first in the Gimme Gimmes, we played with Lagwagon, massive shows for us. But that those people, instead of sitting in the bar and having another beer, they came early to see this local band which they may never heard of.
Totally.
I'm super thankful to that. You could have hang out with your friends and had another beer, but you're here. So how about we do our best, what we can,
Totally.
to make it worthwhile for you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
This fucking
So cool.
just so awesome, dude. dude.
it's so
Just
cool.
to have that, like, I just
Yeah.
think there's so many, it might just be like even more of a cultural thing where it's like so like just Russian shit. I'm just like, no, we're gonna work like really fucking hard at this,
Totally.
and I'm gonna
Totally.
work my ass
Yeah.
off at this and make it the best thing ever. It's
Yeah.
like North America. It's like, I don't know, I might work at it.
Wing
Like,
it.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why else are you doing this? And that's why, like, I think that, like, it's important. I'm gonna like pound that like message home to anybody that's like listening, that's a performer of any kind.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter how many people are in that room. They're there to see you, right? So
Yeah.
you can, you can see 5 people in the crowd and go, "Oh, this is gonna fucking suck," or have fun, do what you want to do. 'Cause you never know who those 5 people are.
Exactly.
They might bring back, it might be 10. The
That
next time you see
attention
or
to
whatever, right?
detail is
Yeah.
so clutch, though. Because I remember going to, I remember going with like Brandy Blue and stuff like that to the Russian Tim show. And it was like that, yeah. The atmosphere was so much different than any other kind of promotion that was happening at that time too. I remember I was like, sometimes you go in and be like, oh, this not the most welcoming vibe.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna. Yeah, we don't have to say any names or talk, down on any
Yeah.
other promotions and stuff out there. And there's some of them that aren't even around anymore. And I think that kind of speaks to,
For
the
sure.
Yeah.
feeling that you do when you go in there, right? As a kid, coming into the scene, not having like any, I have friends and family or whatever that are here, but punk rock is pretty specific. You know what I mean? Like you need, I've been feeding my little sister Rancid albums and stuff, and she's been kind of
Nice.
coming out and all that stuff, and you know what I mean. So that's there, but you're kind of like looking for, like a reason to come back. You know what I mean? And I think that's that biggest thing.
And not even saying it out loud, like people just pick up on that vibe
100%.
of like, oh
Totally.
wow, the person who's putting on this show like gives a fuck,
Yeah.
not just
Yeah,
about
actually
getting
gives
the
a shit.
band and just like, oh, I got
Yeah,
this band and it's
Yeah.
fucking, it's not like an ego
It's
thing.
easier just to
truly
be a
wants,
dick and sit in the back and count the cash and count all the heads
Yeah.
and get, or whatever.
For
right? You know what I mean?
real.
Rather than
Than
actually.
actually care about
know.
the
Yeah.
production and want it to be a good time for everyone that goes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's the key. That's the thing. Like well, I said this already that I try to make it for good for everyone. But it's really important to me, and I don't know. Like I said, I'm thankful to those people, and to me, this is to me that it's fun that somebody wakes up next day, maybe hungover, but it's fucking I had a good time last night.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best description. So like if that's happening, that was cool. Okay, that's a great success.
Hell yeah,
Totally.
right? That's the best thing. I mean, I'm sweating beer out from last night right now.
Perfect.
You know what I mean? But that's just like
he's really breaking in that shirt you got.
It's gonna be hitting the laundry pretty soon. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm gonna wear it
We're
all
gonna
night,
find
too.
out if this thing is pre-shrunk real quick.
It's gonna be yellow.
A wet T-shirt contest.
Oh, no. I'm a disgusting man, and I sweat all of the. You don't think that like sweat is gonna like affect things as much as it does, but like this is probably the only white T-shirt in my closet because they just don't hang out that long. You know what I mean? They just don't really. Make
Oh
it.
yeah, it's like salt water.
Right around the
It really
collar.
starts rusting.
Right
things.
around the
Oh,
collar,
it starts
you know,
rusting.
100%. I've been oxidizing for like.
When you get like the
Been
gray,
oxidizing over
like the
here.
gray in the pits.
That's my science teacher, Mr. Leonarduzzi. This guy was Leonarduzzi was a fucking beauty. He was a
was a
soccer
doozy.
legend. You love the guy, but he had sweat stains go from his elbow like all the way to
Oh,
his
yeah.
mid, and he would just teach like he's not going to address this at
Oh,
all. We have to sit here for an hour. and No one's going to talk about this.
My middle school homeroom teacher, he was one of those too. And it was like, man, you can't teach middle school and have, because he was also the PE teacher and then would come in for homeroom and wear the same fucking shirt. And so it just
Towel
be
off, bro. What are
sweat
you
stains.
doing?
And it'd be like, oh man, you're really
We had
setting
a
yourself
fucking-
up
I
here.
remember our grade 8 gym teacher. Oh man, he looked like Bam Bam Bigelow. He was just like sweatpants and just like fucking like Vader. Like he was
totally.
just like
You need the fire for the flame shirt and shit.
and he wore the same shit every day. And it's the bits. It was like, it'd be fucking late May. School's almost done, and he just still has like the gray Russell sweatshirt, and it was just,
yes.
God, and he was enormous. Like, there's something great about a gym teacher who's just a fat piece of shit. Who's like telling you to run laps, and you're like, well, I don't know about me, sir. I'm doing all right for myself.
It's like for me, it like hits extra hard when they sweat through the sweatshirt.
That's what I
It's
was
like, oh my god,
saying.
that's a lot of material that you're
t-shirt.
saturating right now.
He was like an undershirt dude too. You knew it. Like, there was
But
like
also,
a-
you're teaching kids how to play softball. How are you sweating this fucking much?
Yeah,
Like, what
right.
is
You're not
happening?
we're playing
participating here at
playing
all.
California kickball over here.
That's got to be fucking performance anxiety or whatever you call it.
Oh my god.
What was a Russian gym class like?
Yeah.
Like a lot of-
Yeah.
A lot of kettlebells, I would imagine.
You just fight a bear?
yeah.
Yeah, but-
Did Habib Nurmagomedov teach your class? Is basically what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the year from September to May, the school year, and majority is spent in the winter. So either you train inside, but we did the how you call the skis, but when you not
Cross country?
Cross country.
Cross
Yeah.
country.
we
Yeah.
did that.
Okay.
We did the ice hockey thing, and it was all outside.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because I was always soccer kid, so for me that sucked because I
Yeah.
wanted to play soccer. We didn't have a soccer like gym; it was volleyball or some other bullshit.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like probably the difference was that that it was mostly winter sports.
So how long? Like
Yeah,
that's
that's
a
crazy.
long, cold winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when do you? But like that.
I don't fucking live there anymore.
Yeah, no shit. But like so that. But I'm trying to. You know what I mean? I'm gonna try to figure the thing out because I mean, the interior British Columbia also had these like long periods of time, and if like I snowboarded a little bit, but other than that, you're kind of stuck there, and then like you gravitate towards the thing that you're passionate about, right? So like, we were talking last night a little bit about how difficult it is to find, you know what I mean, the music that you were looking for and the thing. So like, if you've already exhausted this on other podcasts and you don't have to get into it, but I'm fascinated to know like, what's the first band that you found in punk, and then how did you, pursue it?
Yeah, that's the story I've told, but I like the story. So, in 1994, my uncle went to California, I believe.
The year
somewhere
punk
in-
broke.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he came back and he taped a tape for me. One side was Green Day Dookie, the other one was Offspring Smash.
That's
Wow.
fucking sick.
That's
Here
a
you
sick
go.
mashup,
Yeah.
Yeah, and see,
Dang.
like we had limited overall access to information to music. I didn't know it was punk, pop punk, who the
Yep.
fuck those people
Yeah.
were. I just had a tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had no access to who those people. But I really like those, like the Green Day, that whole album, and like Basket Case, obviously. Like,
course, yeah.
like, and I listened, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then years later, I started discovering Russian punk bands. Then when the new albums by Offspring, and by the kind of 2000s, Offspring became like the TV band, and that's how I kind of connected the dots and figured that out. And then NOFX, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
That was, but again, the access to bands and to music was limited. That's why, like we talked yesterday, that because of that limited access, sometimes you get something which is nobody knows, but like in my circle, that was huge. For example, there's a German thrash band called Tankard.
Okay.
You probably don't know
Nope,
this.
never
Nobody
heard
else
of it.
probably
Yeah.
knows this band.
Yeah.
But for us, that was the band.
Yeah.
Before that 94, 92, 93, we had a tape of the Tankard German thrash metal. And then when we started learning English, Tankard turns out to be like a big beer.
Like a Stein? Or
Stein,
Stein.
yeah.
Okay.
Whoa, and I was like, shit, oh, that's cool. And so yeah, that was a huge band for me. But
Yeah.
again, because somehow somebody had this German tape, and then
But like you're listening to
That's cool.
thrash metal, was like Slayer or Megadeth, or was any of that in your?
see, you
in
say
your-
thrash metal. We just said metal. And
Metal,
whatever
yeah,
we
yeah,
get.
Yeah, totally.
I remember that grade one, that best friend which I mentioned with the bars, his brother was older, and we got the Cannibal Corpse.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
I didn't like it,
Yeah.
but because it sounded so heavy,
Yeah.
I pretended like I was liking it and
Yeah,
listening
death
to it.
metal was never my thing either,
Yeah.
dude. It's
Yeah.
how like that's.
Heavy.
There's a big difference between Metallica and Cannibal
Yeah,
Corpse.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then it was Metallica, Megadeth, and then like Sepultura.
Oh, yeah.
But again, and then some German bands like for some reason Amorphis was like big for us again. But because the older brother had a CD or the
We've
tape,
been on this multiple times on this pod where it's like they're having that sibling that's
Totally.
just
Yeah,
like you're kind of forced to like, well, this is what's cool, I guess.
fuck
So
yeah.
you're like, you
Yeah.
fuck with it hard.
My brother had Pantera, Far Beyond Driven. Not their best album, but I know it front to back. because
Yeah,
my older
same
brother-
thing.
yeah.
My favorite Creator was another band. There's Outcast, which some proper metalheads said, "Oh no, that's where they went shit."
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, this is the only album I had. And I really liked it."
How dare you, sir?
Touchstone, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're like, that's so interesting to like just like picking and or just not having like any option to choose from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was lucky enough to there was a CD store downtown in my small town, so we would go and like work for this guy, like hand out flyers to like or whatever, like all this like little things that he needed to do because we were broke. And then when we would go in there afterwards, instead of payment, he'd just give us CDs. So a friend of mine was like huge into metal, and he'd go for like Bures and like all these like bands and stuff. But it's like a $30 3-disc album, and I just picked up like Punkorama, and I was like, I'll take this one. And he's like, it's like $8, and he's like, oh, dude, you could take like three of them or something like that. So my buddy's got a Bures album, and he's loving it. But I have, now with like a Fat Wreck or. You know what I mean? A Hopelessly Devoted to You and a Punkorama. Now I have access to 40 bands.
Yeah.
That,
Right.
like, I mean, it just really opens the door up, right? But if you're like, if you don't have access to that, then you know what I mean? How do you go your way to like? If I have a feeling like you really give a shit about music, you get an album and you're probably going to need another one.
The first punk, everyone I speak to of our age says, "Oh yeah, I grew up on those Punkoramas, whatever they are." My first Punkorama, I bought it in Canada. so
shit.
I didn't know that shit existed
Oh,
before.
man.
So Punkorama 3, I visited Canada.
It's a good one.
2003, I think it
Yeah.
was. This one I discovered that this shit exists.
No
so like,
shit.
I had all my people of my age already grew up and they're been listening for it for only 10 years.
Yeah, no doubt.
So
But that's
how-
that's awesome. If something's like, you know what I mean, if Good Riddance is still new to you, then that's you're lucky.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's
Because you get to you get to find out all that other shit or whatever, right? Like imagine just finding Strung Out and being like, holy shit, there's 10 albums here that I can like dive deeper into is the coolest thing. So at what time when do you find NOFX? Because we're talking about the war on errorism today.
Yeah.
Fantastic. 0 stars. It was a horribly reviewed album. Fuck Vice magazine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I remember reading like reviews for this album that I loved because NOFX was already legendary when I think it was 2002. What year did this album come out? 2003. I'm 13 years old, and I'd had a burned copy of So Long and Thanks for All the Shoes and Punk a Drublic, Pump Up the Volume. So I was already like well into NOFX, but they hadn't like released an album in the time that like I'd been a fan of them.
Yeah.
So as like I felt like this one was for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I went to a CD store and I bought it like release day and all this stuff, and there was like it's so huge to me because in 2003 I'm 13 years old, but you're seeing like, everybody's lying to you. You know what I mean? The government is all fucked up. 9/11 was only a few years ago. Like all this kind of shit is like is hitting a young boy's mind. Like
A young
very-
DeVito.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And finding George Carlin, like all these things, finding comedy and punk rock around like the same time, and basically just being like fuck everything. But there was something about NOFX that did it with this album because they're not a political band, you know what I mean, historically, by you know what I mean, until like this one comes out when they're like, okay, we actually have like something to say, and I think they did it in like in a very NOFX way, and that it's still a very fun album, you know what I mean, but Fat Mike did his best to speak of the times or whatever, right? So like that was monumental for me. And my brother OD'd too, so like whoops, I OD'd was a huge thing. So he came back. It was all good. So shout out to Richie. He's still kicking around. You know what I mean?
Oh my god! Yeah.
So for my brother who's not like into punk or anything like that, like I was listening to that CD and then like that song really hit him because whoops, I OD'd was like pretty wild or whatever. So there's like bonding and like even talking to like metalheads and stuff like that. You can't deny how like incredibly fast Smelly's drums are, how insane Hefe's guitar is, you know what I mean? Like the band fucking rules.
Yeah.
So
I
Matt
agree.
Earl, eat shit.
He gave. Of course he did.
Oh, of course he does. Yeah, he had a staunch, firm stance on against NOFX.
But wore a NOFX shirt his first day of high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, controversial.
Fucking country.
It goes
Should have stuck with it.
Yeah.
Instead of hating it.
Hell yeah. So where do you find this album? Why is this the one for you?
Yeah, like I'll tell a little bit the backstory that the years like that 90s we used to have kind of like Skytrain but like the Metro underground, and we used to have those, we called it kiosks, where they had like a whole bunch of tapes, and back in the day it was just burnt tapes with actually either the pen or like shitty print, like it says like it's like a Death this album and Sepultura this album, whatever.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was kind of until the 90s.
So just an independent business. Somebody's just
Somebody's just taping and
taping
selling.
and that's awesome.
Yeah, and
I bet Capitol Records had something to say about that.
but yeah, they were probably making like, I don't know, 12 rubles, which was 12 cents probably. So I don't think.
Okay, yeah. You're
But-
just covering the
not
cost
very
of the tapes.
lucrative, yeah.
But then the CDs got introduced, and they did the same thing. Instead of just selling that CD, we used to burn CDRs, and then the CDR will have 10 albums by this band.
Yeah.
So, for example, Sepultura, 100 rubles, and 10 all their albums up to the point. So that was the case, and then my buddy bought the NOFX, that CD of all the albums, and that was up to pump up the volume.
Oh, crazy.
And I've been always like since I'm like, I like being organized and respecting the band. I always, when I get the new band, especially back in the day, introduced to the new band, he said, "Hey, listen, I have this cool band, NOFX, check it out." And because I wanted to be respectful and wanted to figure out how it all works, I always start with the first album. And that was a big fucking mistake.
Dude,
because-
yeah, you fucked up hard. It
Yeah.
took 4 or 5 of them to get good.
So when he first gave me that burn CDR with all the albums up to pump up the volume 2000, I started listening from the first, and fucking liberal animation. I was like, this. And we both kind of heard about this band somewhere like on the internet, and they like people were talking with their spec, and I was like, this band sucks. This is not very good. Like liberal animation. Then you get to kind of S&M Airlines.
Ribbed isn't even for me, really.
Couple songs here or there. Why the fuck people like this band?
Totally.
Like, what's the and then so I returned the CDR. Didn't work out for me after a few weeks. And then somehow he said, try it again. I don't remember how it happened. Maybe I heard another song which I liked.
So just go to Punk and Drublic.
No. So I went to get the same CDR from him 6 months later, but I started from the end, and it was Pump Up the Volume. And that was a better decision.
100%.
And that was, I remember 2 songs which I liked first, My Vagina and Louise.
Hell yeah,
Vagina,
dude. Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh shit, this band is good. And then I went back and I liked the band. They became my favorite band of all time. So that's similar to you. When the next album came out on the list, that was the War on Errorism.
Yeah.
And that was the next album when I was already kind of came out when I was a fan. So I didn't have to go back. And that's why this album was special to me. I don't remember, but I probably got it from torrents or from SoulSeek or from Napster, something like that, downloading track by track.
Oh yeah, Soul Steak still works. Just if you can't find a physical copy.
And then that's started listening, and that's why this album I probably listened to it the most, just because that was that moment, and that's why it's special to me.
Hell yeah, man.
Right on.
It's something like that's a little bit bittersweet or whatever, because obviously like NOFX is hanging it up. You know what I mean? From what we hear, they're I guess they're finished. You know what I mean? Fat Mike's doing some cool stuff with co-defendants and stuff, but I have no idea what, you know what I mean, is in the future for them. But controversial opinion, do you think that it's time for them to hang up the gloves? And when was the last NOFX album that you were like, oh, this is really like...
Last album.
you think really?
Last
No
album.
shit,
I
hey?
love everything. Well, see, I'm a very loyal person. Sometimes Mike does and says things which could be cringy, weird, but I'm a loyal person because they gave me so much respect. So much good feelings and everything else. I will respect this forever. And everyone, even if he does some weirdo stuff which I don't agree or don't like, I'm still a fan. I still support him. I listen to every single album. I usually like at least half of the record, but I always, when it comes out, I obviously buy the record. I listen, and I will never say, "Oh, this is not as good as this," because this is a different period of time. And but I always, that's my favorite band of all time.
Yeah.
I'm very loyal to them, regardless what happens in the future. I will always listen to everything which is related to NOFX. Always buy, support. That's my number one band, my favorite band, and I feel like I have to 100% in.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
Why is the breakup happening?
I think it's just like they've just decided that they're at the end of their road. It seems like,
Which is kind of wild to me, because it's like they're so far past making that decision.
Yeah, they're. But
In my head, I'm like, well, you're just gonna be the fucking Stones forever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it is. It really is. Like, I picture seeing Fat Mike on stage
totally
and that band for the rest of my life.
festivals that they put together and what they've done for themselves, like they can play for as long as they. I mean, I'll go. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Like, not only
we were
that,
talking about the nostalgia factor of it.
yeah.
I'm like, of course people are gonna
Fat
go.
Records did like a 25-year kind of like anniversary show in San Francisco for 2 days, and I was, as soon as I saw that I might get a chance to see Tilt live, I'm fucking there.
Yeah.
No
Right?
Use
You know
for
what I mean?
Name?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, dude. All of that stuff was amazing getting to see Dead to Me, which is not a band that fucking tours very, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that shit is huge. And then, obviously seeing like the Flatliners and stuff, Propaganda, had to cancel and stuff, and I'm the only Canadian there, so I'm getting shit for that.
Yeah, I was there too.
You're my man. Of course you were. I was in the line for the bathroom a lot. I was engaging in some extracurricular activities that day, or both those days actually. But just like there's something about like not only like punk rock or whatever, but like something caught me about like the West Coast or Fat Records, or like just like the way that they kind of do it or whatever.
Yes.
Just hit me from a really young age, and then
Yes.
they cemented this like level of trust that I have in like with those compilation albums and all the bands that they sign and stuff. There's some people can kind of turn their nose up at it and be like, oh, all the Fat Wreck bands from this era sound the same and whatever. But I loved that sound, you know what I mean? And then as I got a little bit older and kind of grew with it, like, being like heavy, like NOFX and Lagwagon and stuff. But like, as I kind of grew up and kind of developed like a different taste and things like that, Dillinger 4 and the Lawrence Arms are two of my favorite bands of all time. You know what I mean? So like, as like that shift in Fat happened, I was right there with it, and like kind of like followed the whole thing. So there's like the guy's got an ear for talent, you know what I mean, and it does something that I think is important. I was also a big fan of hip hop, and something that I never understood about hip hop is that it seems kind of like a singular game. Like if you can make it, then you can make it. But in punk, they encourage the next generation to come up. So some of your favorite bands, they brought like the Flatliners up, and I remember seeing the Flatliners in Habitat. It was a small venue in Kelowna for like 5 people. Destroy to Create had just come out, and I was like, holy shit, this is like Skacore is back. You know what I mean, right? And then watching that band grow into, you know what I mean, into who they are today or whatever is insane, right? Because now they're exactly right. They'll sell out anything, and I mean, Chris playing with Hot Water Music. Now you're just kind of like living vicariously through these people, being like, God damn, that's so goddamn cool. But there's something to be said about like the thing that we love is just like happens to be like pretty inclusive. And Colin said it the best from You Big Idiot. He's like, if you haven't been hugged in a while, just go to a punk show. And, like,
This is very true.
Yeah, see what we talked in before, there's like Fat Mike, his stage persona, but the way he runs business and how you hear from other bands, how he's respectful to them and how he runs. I don't know, there must be somewhere a balance between me just learning from him from those stories and kind of resonating with how I live my life. So whatever he does, like it's a handshake deal, it's a one deal album, it's respect to the band, it's kind of that resonated to me. And when we do anything with with my band or organizing shows, I try to do it the same way, especially if the watchers watch this 25-year Fat Wreck documentary. Bands speak a lot. I think, who was it? I think it was Propaganda who had conflict with Mike, and they left Fat, and they wrote songs about each other. So
openly talk shit about them in the liner notes on a Fat Records release with like pictures of Fat Mike in there. It's great. It's awesome. But if you're gonna be punk,
you gotta love a fucking like a punk diss track. Is always a good time.
To your boss.
who put out the record?
Who's paying to put this out?
It's so cool. Propaganda rules.
But I think it was Propaganda, and they said in this movie, Fat was the only label who we dealt with who paid us everything we owned and what they promised and on time. And even there was a conflict, they still said this. So like that's respectful to the artist, to the person you're working with.
Propaganda will definitely tell you how it is.
Oh,
they made a point of being like,
want to know the real ass Chris Hanna. And he will play this like rip a solo and scream in the fucking like, God damn, they're so talented.
They're so good. So good.
So the when you're trying to find your own way in this thing, like having like you know what I mean, seeing it done the right way, you know what I mean, is so goddamn beneficial for every band that you've put on, you know what I mean, and like giving them stage time and an opportunity to do that. When you guys are going to record and put out records and stuff like that, how does that kind of come into play? The same ethics, the same kind of philosophy.
Help me understand.
Well, you guys have been recording and stuff like that. You guys have albums and stuff like that. We're coming out. So what is it like? Who do you put your records out through?
We record everything with Jesse Gander, Rain City Recorders. He used to be in the Vancouver band DBS, absolute legend of Vancouver scene. He did albums by Japan Drones, White Lung. For me, when we started recording, it was very important to record with a local producer, with a local engineer, a local studio. So kind of the money stays in the family.
Totally.
Then we started with Rain City and did everything we've done with Rain City, almost everything. And for example, when we worked with Jesse, when we recorded the album, he says we have a couple of options who to send it to the mastering. I have a guy in New York, I have this and this, but I have Stu McKillop, who is in Vancouver, who is from Daggermouth. So of course I'm gonna
Fuck yeah,
Stu,
dude.
because that's again. So to me that we're gonna record, we're gonna spend money. How about we spend it with the local people from our circle? So that's important to me. And I never. Same thing we did press the record with the Clampdown, which is also it was convenient because they're here, but again it was important to me to do it with somebody who is a local. So again, that kind of that locality, supporting each other, supporting each other businesses. If we're gonna spend money anyway, so let's do it with our friends.
Think locally, fuck globally. If I may quote Gogo Bordello.
Good
There you
reference.
go.
That's awesome. So
Did I answer the question?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. It's just like I'm just kind of fascinated in it, like in with like comedy. It's a self, driven engine or whatever, right? Nobody really cares if you do it or not. You know what I mean? It's totally up to you. So the idea of like when our first albums are going to come around, that's kind of like, what I mean, like up to us or whatever, right? So like when you guys, as a band or whatever, you can, there's a whole lot more moving parts.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yes.
mean? Which seems like interesting. And I mean, I'm like this isn't the only band that, a lot of you guys are in too, right? So I mean, so finding the time and the
Yes.
space to do it is like, it's incredible just to see like any band that's been doing it for any, period of time or whatever is especially when life starts to happen. We're not in the 20s anymore. And things start to move in that direction.
See that I had to learn as being in a band member and kind of, in some sense coming up with the idea when we record, when we play, for example, because when we record the album, we probably need to practice for a couple of months to make sure. Then we go into the studio, and so that there's a process when everyone needs to be focused. And I learned to find out that so let's make sure then if we pick that 2-3 months window, that nothing else really happening in other members' life. For example, because Christy, she's busy with other projects, so I'm trying to. It doesn't always work out, but I want to. If we're getting ready for the album and Christy has 15 other shows with Wrong or some other bands, her focus will be shifted and she will not be 100%.
For sure.
That's just an example. Same thing with like Yulia and Sergey. So like that's why I kind of try to that again, and I've made mistakes in the past, but now I'm trying to kind of to make sure that it works for everyone and it's convenient. And when we go to studio, we work in the right headspace.
Oh yeah. And what is there independent punk rock is always fascinating to me because I mean you can be at Lanaloo's and then opening for Lagwagon. You know what I mean? Like with all in like a period of time. Like do you have you guys set goals for yourself, or is there anything like coming up that we should know about, or what? Like how does that work?
Yeah.
Or does life just fucking fall into your lap in the coolest way?
This motherfucker manifest shit. Are you kidding me? Yeah. This has been great. I'm learning a lot today.
Yeah, right.
Like, how we get a Russian Tim comedy show happening? Like, we need that fucking environment.
We need
That'd
a
be
good
awesome.
fucking promoter in comedy, somebody that gives a shit
Truly,
about
yeah.
us, pays what they say they're going to pay. I'll fucking say it. I'll say it right here.
But yeah, in terms of there was a couple questions in terms of falling into laps and playing Lana losing with Lagwagon. It's the goal of the band. The goal is to have fun.
Hell yeah.
Once there was a moment in the end of last year when I felt exhausted, and I think the band as well. We played a lot, we did a lot, and then we did nothing. We didn't jam. It would never happen in the band's life. From September until to January, we just took it off because we needed a break. Yes, like I said, I wasn't having fun doing stuff, and I said, okay, we need a break. So the goal is to have fun, to make sure that everything we do is some sort of fun, because there's always obstacles. But that's the goal. to do shit, because sometimes like you said, like there could be a scale from playing a smaller place like Lana Luz and playing in Vogue with in front of like I don't know how many people with like wagon.
Oh yeah.
But if it's a cool show at Lana Luz with our buzz with, let's say
It's
we're
a
playing
fucking
with Dead
cool
and
show.
Driving,
And it's a lot of
Yeah.
fucking.
It
It's
was-
still a show.
it's-
Like
yeah,
you
as
go
long
into
as
it the
it's
same.
we're gonna go hang out, gonna hug Colin, have
Exactly.
Dan Garrison. We're gonna kiss me
Yeah,
probably.
oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Definitely kissing Dan Garrison.
Oh, yeah.
I got a little like
He's a
rug burn
kisser.
from his 5 o'clock shadow. I mean, we did a lot of hugging last night, me and Dan. We had a fantastic time.
Rubbing faces.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And he actually said something to me like really cool last night. We were talking, and I was, talking to a guy like Dan Garrison that's so goddamn, talented in his own band, and is such a good guy that he's played in every other band. He's on the road with, you know what I mean, a handful of bands at the moment. You know what I mean? He's gonna go to Europe and do a run with the Core, and then go right back with Belvedere. It's insane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the dude is
Amazing.
is moving, and I kind of told him that like there's a. Yeah, like it's a fight club. Right? You decide your own level of involvement in Project Mayhem. You know what I mean? So, I was just kind of giving him his flowers a little bit in that sense that it's just incredibly inspirational to, to see that. And then I see a lot of people that like I maybe looked up to at one time that now in our pursuit, of the thing that we want to do, I could see a lot of people like, taking a back step or saying that it's not important to work that hard or whatever, right? But like when I go to sleep at night, my brain doesn't turn off. You know what I mean? So like it's plotting the next thing, or like how can, I put myself in a position to where I'm always having fun, I'm always doing cool shit and doing the thing that I love.
Yeah.
And if you're like we're taking the next step here, moving to Montreal and trying to get things a little bit cheaper so that we can just focus on comedy and like really then push it forward. And if you don't like take a bet on yourself or take the chance to do it, then like what the fuck are you doing it for? It's always that's the idea for me, where some people have a completely different opinion about it. We're like, we'll take it as it comes, and that's totally cool too. But he told me he's like, never apologize for running at your own speed. You know what I mean? And it was like the coolest thing that he said is like, you don't have to apologize if you're looking at a faster train that's like, oh, that's where I'm going. You know what I mean? And that's where you're going to go. Right. And like, and then it just kind of is like giving yourself the permission to work as hard as you want to and not, like regretting anything, because like the first time that I met that guy was outside of the BD Club. You know what I mean? At a fucking Russian Tim show. And I've said it a million times. I was just talking to him and Andrew Peterson, and they was just the nicest guys. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm getting some friends around here. And then they walk on stage and just fucking I had no idea they were in the band, and they just fucking tear shit apart, right? So, like, there's something so goddamn inspirational about all of you guys that I probably wouldn't be doing this show right now if it wasn't for you guys. And, like, like a lot of that stuff was, like, we could have reached out way before. We could have had you guys on probably episode 25. You're very supportive people. You know what I mean?
That's actually so funny to be like, we made like 100 and whatever episodes. We're like, man, this punk thing's really working out for us.
Exactly.
It was like super nice and like so
goddamn.
easy to fucking book. And
That
like,
was the-
and
that was
people
the-
are like down to clown. Like usually comics will call us like the day of, like an hour before, being like, oh man, it's probably not happening today or that.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
gonna be an
people-
hour late or
Yeah,
whatever.
like people are like
yeah.
fucking actually fucking hyped to come out and do it. So we're so thankful for that.
Exactly, right? It's just like like there's so much like inspiration, like, and good times have been given to me kind of through this thing. So the only thing that I could ever do is just try to be a part of it. And like stand up is definitely like it's not music by any means, but like it can be, you know what I mean? And you can like put yourself in a thing and like how can we, help each other? How can we promote our own shit? And now we're playing a show with Die Job at the end of the month and stuff when we're going out, you know what I mean? And all that stuff is like none of that would have happened. Me and Jackie were sitting in a garage, good, like talking about like how we're gonna start the show or whatever, and it was Corey, you big idiot, and like Russia 2, we were talking about like, hey, these guys have kind of set it up, you know, I mean, in a way or whatever. And I guess we just wanted to get to the point that we were good enough to to invite you on and have it be an interesting enough conversation, man. So infinite thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Like, there's not a lot of people out here doing it, right? And if anybody's listening, that's like, shit, I just wish that, I could get involved in something. Like, you don't need anybody's permission. Tim's a fucking proof and point.
The attention to detail is like what strikes me. It's just like you are very, what you want in that show, whether it's you're playing live or just, I'm like more fascinated with just the producing end of it, of just like creating that environment for people. And it's this unspoken thing of like, people feel that energy. If you're running around all fucking stressed out and like, oh, this band's not here, blah, 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 or this not happens, like, people, when you enter a room, it's clear that something's like off,
Totally.
or you know what I mean, or the energy's not quite right. Not to get all hippy dippy on it, but when it's such a great fun environment, I can remember going to like a show when I was still running Pats of yours and being like, we need to get more of this. Like, this needs to be a little bit more happier environment, or just like it's just such a good fucking time.
We worked hard all week, right? Let's fucking have a good time.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't think that people need to overthink, because sometimes people think, oh, like punk scene and like DIY, putting on shows and putting this like kind of rock and roll thing. I don't think like that. I think, okay, like I booked a date, I invited my friends to play, we'll play or whatever. Let's have a good night. So I don't think it's like in this big like, oh, if this is a punk rock show, it has to be punk scene.
Right.
I just thrown a party, invited some people, they paid money to be here, they're supporting the bands. Like, it should, don't overthink it, just have fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the
Well, it
first
comes
thing.
across, man. As soon as you walked in here, I was like, this guy's, I love this shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, you've been doing it for, you know what I mean, for a long time. And like, I'm looking forward to for it to keep going. Is there another fest coming? Because you guys are going to Squamish, which I'm not going to be able to attend, which is kind of a bummer. When's the next Vancouver Russian Tim fest? We're going to do Christmas? Like, where is that on the books? Or?
So this is the first year outside of pandemic when I didn't do the summer festival.
Yeah.
It used to be Rocket from Russia Fest. Last year it was Vancouver. And again, like, you know, that's going back to what I said. The last year I didn't have fun. In terms of the festival went great. In terms of organization, I felt like I did this before. I felt like it was a repeat of something I've done. And when I was thinking, should I do it this year? And I wasn't very excited. And yeah, like, Matt. Oh, that's a good story.
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna fucking that perfect. So this is like the NOFX like beef we have. This is great. So yeah, so Matt was on the previous episode, and last year when I was doing the Vancouver festival at the Wise Hall, it was 2022, but it was the end of COVID, and that was one of the time when like was another wave. And I remember that was so stressful. It was a 2-weekend festival, 4 days. I don't remember how many bands, 25 probably, something like that.
Yeah.
And I remember that in the first day before the festival started, I had 3 bands canceled, and I think the 4th one did. So it was super stressful because at some point I realized that the festival starts this weekend, and on one night I had 2 or 3 bands when it's supposed to be 5. So it was super stressful to find this bands, to find the band which is available. I asked probably 20 bands, and everyone, like we would love to
Last
play.
minute is it?
But it's like the buddy is at our drummers and wedding in Cologne.
Yeah.
So it was super. So I was like stressful, and then that happened, and then I was just like, fuck it. So I come out of the first band. Matt Earl was opening the show, and he starts the show with a song which I didn't know, but it was song Dissing Fat Mike. And I was like, fucking hell.
This fucking
son of a bitch.
shit.
I was like spending so much, like it was so stressful. 2 months of preparation, and he opens the show with dissing my hero, and I was like,
The
fuck
disrespect.
that. And after that, I was like, oh shit, this is and like I was just like, oh, that's. And then overall, I was just like, fucking hell, that was such a stressful experience. Obviously, like, you know, luckily we passed that COVID, so it probably would have been easier, but that's why I didn't do it this summer, because last year like I felt I didn't have fun. Doesn't mean that I'm not gonna do it ever, but maybe sometime in the future will, but this one I didn't do. But going back to your question, that was good.
That's
Matt,
not
right?
bad.
Yeah,
That was good. Yeah.
This guy's been on the radio
Got
before.
that in there, yeah.
Nice, good. He previous episode, Matt was here before, probably talk some shit about NOFX. This is my revenge.
Right here, motherfucker.
But yeah, we next weekend, I don't know when this comes out, but yeah, on September 15th we're playing in Squamish. They're doing Squamish Punk Festival. 3 days. We've played the Squamish before quite a few times. There's a guy named Paul. He runs that whole festival in band Anonym Americans, and it's super cool. Like, you know, people come out. It's a different audience. We've played there before, so they know us. They like us. For us, it's great. Yeah.
That's
Awesome.
exciting.
Fuck yeah.
The move is happening, and my last day of work is the 15th. So, you know, I got a lot of people that I got to see before we leave town and stuff like that. And a Squamish punk night sounds like in the books. We'll see what's going on with comedy and all that. Anything local that that you'd like to promote or anything before we get out of here? Or
Yeah, of
what
course.
should people? Tell them where to keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
Well, again, depends when this come out. We're playing September
I believe
14th.
it'll be out in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay, and then we'll play October 14th at Lana Luz with Penske Files. Speaking of Lana Luz.
There you go. Hell
There you
yeah.
go.
Yeah, we're playing with them. And then I don't know if it's announced, but we're playing a Christmas show, I believe, in December 9th at the Vice Hall.
Fuck
Nice.
yeah.
So that's going to be a
awesome.
good Christmas big show. I'm not putting it out. Somebody else does. I don't know if I'm allowed.
Is that going to be good for you now that you just get to play and somebody else gets to deal with all the
Yeah.
stress
You
of
don't
it?
have to do all that
Way better.
shit.
Just show up and do your time.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about like, I don't want to go
Yeah.
into this, but there's a lot of stuff.
Fucking
which I-
Matt's gonna show up and
Specifics, yeah.
shit talk fucking no.
Yeah.
That's not your problem anymore.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Tim. Well, like I said before, man, you've been like a constant source of inspiration for me for a long time. So I'm stoked that you got a chance to come in here and sit down and do this. And we'll be in touch. I'll be back in town real soon, buddy.
Sounds good. Thanks so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much
Thanks
for
for
coming
having me.
on.
Dude, thank you,
This
man.
was
Hell yeah,
awesome.
man.
Yeah.
Peace.
Peace.